सारथी। वैज्ञानिकता विनय सभ्यता स्वभाव हो निस्वार्थी, स्वभाव हो निस्वार्थी। देशभक्ति में तेजस्वी हो फिर समाज यह सारा। गीता परिवार हमारा, गीता परिवार हमारा।
जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ, जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ।
शिवाजी बुद्ध गगन के तारे।
जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ, जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ।
महावीर गोविंद शिवाजी बुद्ध गगन के तारे। परंपरा की पुण्य चेतना उर में हम सब धारे, उर में हम सब धारे। बाल हृदय में उसे जगाकर जगे देश यह सारा। गीता परिवार हमारा, गीता परिवार हमारा।
जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ, जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ।
सारी दुर्बलता को राष्ट्र समर्थ बनाओ।
जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ, जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ।
त्यागो सारी दुर्बलता को राष्ट्र समर्थ बनाओ। बंधु भाव समता ममता से सबको गले लगाओ, सबको गले लगाओ। चलो विवेकानंद मार्ग पर शुभ संदेश हमारा। गीता परिवार हमारा, गीता परिवार हमारा। ईश्वर भक्ति भाव से बहती संस्कारों की धारा। भारत माँ की सेवा में गीता परिवार हमारा, गीता परिवार हमारा। गीता परिवार हमारा, गीता परिवार हमारा। गीता परिवार हमारा, गीता परिवार हमारा।
आदरं मधुरं वदनं मधुरं नयनं मधुरं हसितं मधुरं हृदयं मधुरं गमनं मधुरं।
मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरं, मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरम्।
वचनं मधुरं चरितं मधुरं वसनं मधुरं वलितं मधुरं चलितं मधुरं भ्रमितं मधुरम्।
मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरं, मधुराधिपतेरखिलं
पाणिर्मधुरः पादौ मधुरौ नृत्यं मधुरं सख्यं मधुरम्
मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरम्
गीतं मधुरं पीतं मधुरं भुक्तं मधुरं सुप्तं मधुरं रूपं मधुरं तिलकं मधुरम्
मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरम्
तरणं मधुरं तरणं मधुरं हरणं मधुरं स्मरणं मधुरं वमितं मधुरं शमितं मधुरम्
मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरम्
कुञ्जा मधुरा माला मधुरा यमुना मधुरा वीथी मधुरा सलिलं मधुरं कमलं मधुरम्
मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरम्
गोपी मधुरा लीला मधुरा युक्तं मधुरं मुक्तं मधुरं दृष्टं मधुरं शिष्टं मधुरम्
मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरम्
गोपा मधुरा गावो मधुरा यष्टिर्मधुरा सृष्टिर्मधुरा दलितं मधुरं फलितं मधुरम्
मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरम्
जले। बुद्ध जैसे कारुणिक हो धीर हम महावीर से। ध्रुव जैसे निश्चयी सत्याग्रही प्रहलाद से। दुर्दम्य सारे संकटों में अग्निपथ पर भी खिले। सद्गुणों की साधना में ध्येय ज्योति नित जले। हनुमान से सेवाव्रति जिज्ञासु हो नचिकेत से। कर्मयोगी कृष्ण जैसे वीर हो हम पार्थ से। बलिदान गोविंद सिंह सहो स्वार्थ सारा ही चले। सद्गुणों की साधना में ध्येय ज्योति नित जले। देशभक्ति हो शिवासम प्रेम हो गौरांग सा। स्वाभिमान प्रताप सा हो तेज झांसी वाली सा। जलती शहीदों की चिता से हृदय में अंगार ले। सद्गुणों की साधना में ध्येय ज्योति नित जले। संग्राम में जीवन धरा पर विजय रथ ले हम चले। सद्गुणों की साधना में ध्येय ज्योति नित जले। ध्येय ज्योति नित जले। ध्येय ज्योति नित जले।
श्री गुरु चरण सरोज रज निज मनु मुकुरु सुधारी। बरनउ रघुबर विमल जसु जो दायकु फलचारी। बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरौ पवन कुमार। बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरहु कलेस विकार। जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर। जय कपीसति लोक उजागर। रामदूत अतुलित बल धामा। अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा। महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी। कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी। कंचन बरन विराज सुबेसा। कानन कुंडल कुंचित केसा। हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा विराजे। कांधे मूज जनेऊ साजे। शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन। तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन। विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर। राम काज करिबे को आतुर। प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया। राम लखन सीता मन बसिया। सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा। विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा। भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे। रामचंद्र के काज संवारे। लाय सजीवन लखन जियाए। श्री रघुबीर हरषि उर लाए। रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई। तुम मम प्रिय भरतहि सम भाई। सहस बदन तुम रोजस गावे। अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे। सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा। नारद सारद सहित अहिसा। जम कुबेर दिक्पाल जहाते। कवि कोविद कहि सकै कहाते। तुम उपकार सुग्रीवहि कीन्हा। राम मिलाय राजपद दीन्हा। तुम्हरो मंत्र विभीषण माना। लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना। जुग सहस्र जो जन पर भानु। लील्योताहि मधुर फल जानू। प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माहि। जलधि लांघि गए अचरज नाही। दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हारे तेते राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे सब सुख लहे तुम्हारी सरना तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना आपन तेज संहारो आपे तीनों लोक हाँकते कांपे भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे महावीर जब नाम सुनावे नासे रोग हरे सब पीरा जपत निरंतर हनुमत वीरा संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे चारों जुग पर ताप तुम्हारा है पर सिद्ध जगत उजियारा साधु संत के तुम रखवारे असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे अष्ट सिद्धि नौ निधि के दाता असवर दीन जानकी माता राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे अंत काल रघुबरपुर जाई जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई और देवता चित्तन धरई हनुमत से सर्व सुख करई संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलबीरा जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई जो सत बार पाठ कर कोई छूट ही बंदी महासुख होई जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा होय सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा की जय नाथ हृदय महडेरा पवन तनय संकट हरना मंगल मूर्ति रूप राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय बसहु सुर भूप सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय उमापति महादेव की जय।
सच्चिदानन्दं वासुदेवं व्रजप्रियं धर्मसंस्थापकं वीरं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् ईश्वर भक्ति भाव से बहती संस्कारों की धारा भारत माँ की सेवा में गीता परिवार हमारा गीता परिवार हमारा ईश्वर भक्ति भाव से बहती संस्कारों की धारा भारत माँ की सेवा में गीता परिवार हमारा गीता परिवार हमारा।
जय भारत माँ जय गीता माँ जय भारत माँ जय गीता
संस्कृति का वैभव जग में सबसे न्यारा
जय भारत माँ जय गीता माँ जय भारत माँ जय गीता
भारतीय संस्कृति का वैभव जग में सबसे न्यारा ज्ञान और विज्ञान यहीं से सब सबने पाया सारा, सबने पाया सारा। कुछ भूलों से हारा, फिर से जीते देश हमारा। गीता परिवार हमारा, गीता परिवार हमारा।
जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ, जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ।
त्यागशील सेवा व्रतधारी, युवा जगे पुरुषार्थी।
जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ, जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ।
त्यागशील सेवा व्रतधारी, युवा जगे पुरुषार्थी। वैज्ञानिकता विनय सभ्यता, स्वभाव हो निस्वार्थी, स्वभाव हो निस्वार्थी। देशभक्ति में तेजस्वी हो, फिर समाज यह सारा। गीता परिवार हमारा, गीता परिवार हमारा।
जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ, जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ।
महावीर गोविंद शिवाजी, बुद्ध गगन के तारे।
जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ, जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ।
महावीर गोविंद शिवाजी, बुद्ध गगन के तारे। परंपरा की पुण्य चेतना, उर में हम सब धारे, उर में हम सब धारे। बाल हृदय में उसे जगाकर, जगे देश यह सारा। गीता परिवार हमारा, गीता परिवार हमारा।
जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ, जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ।
त्यागो सारी दुर्बलता को, राष्ट्र समर्थ बनाओ।
जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ, जय भारत माँ, जय गीता माँ।
त्यागो सारी दुर्बलता को, राष्ट्र समर्थ बनाओ। बंधु भाव समता ममता से, सबको गले लगाओ, सबको गले लगाओ। चलो विवेकानंद मार्ग पर, शुभ संदेश हमारा। गीता परिवार हमारा, गीता परिवार हमारा। ईश्वर भक्ति भाव से बहती, संस्कारों की धारा। भारत माँ की सेवा में, गीता परिवार हमारा, गीता परिवार हमारा। गीता परिवार हमारा, गीता परिवार हमारा। गीता परिवार हमारा, गीता परिवार हमारा।
Jai Shri Krishna, everyone. So, on behalf of Geeta Parivar, we welcome you all for today's L1 grammar session. Let's begin this session with a prayer. Vasudeva Sutan Devan Kaunsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishna Vande Jagadgurum Shri Krishna Vande Jagadgurum. So today we have amongst us Tanvi Desai ji from Bangalore, who would walk us through the grammar session that's been organized for today. So she's a graduate in BA and currently working as a technical writer in software industry. She's been a part of Geeta Parivar since Jan 2021, and she's been offering her seva as a core trainer across all the 4 levels. She's also offered her seva with the proofreading team, and she's also contributed as a technical assistant, and she became a Geeta Vriti last year. So, Jai Shri Krishna Tanvi ji, over to you.
Jai Shri Krishna to everyone. Welcome to this L1 grammar or Vyakarana session. In this session, we will be understanding some very basic and fundamental concepts of grammar, which we learn in our Bhagavad Gita shlokas. Okay, so right now you all might have completed one chapter, the 12th chapter, and you might have also started the 15th chapter. So in class, your teacher, while teaching, might have mentioned certain terms like Anuswara, Visarga, Aghata. Okay, but in class, we actually can't explain all of these terms too much in detail because we have only 40 minutes and we have to focus on pronunciation in class. So in this grammar session, we will be explaining these basic fundamental grammar concepts a little more in detail to help you understand the shlokas better. Okay, so I'll share my screen and we can start going through these concepts one by one. So welcome to the class. Okay, so in any language, when we have to try to, understand the grammar of any language, the most basic thing we need to understand is the alphabet of that language. Okay, so in Sanskrit, we call the alphabet is known as the Varnamala, and the Varnamala is split into two groups
So Tanvi ji will be joining back in a minute. I guess there's some network issue. So apologies for the inconvenience. There is some network issue. She would just reconnect in a minute. So apologies once again for the delay. There's a network issue at our end. We'll sort it out in a couple of minutes. And there are some, I can see a few hand raised. So requesting all the participants to park your questions until the end. Once the session is complete, we will, you can raise your hands and we'll unmute you one after the other. And the trainer for today would answer all your queries regarding any grammar related queries.
Jai Shri Krishna to everyone. We're extremely sorry for that delay. Okay, there was a network issue. We weren't able to connect, but I think it should be fine now. So I'll just share my screen again. Just give me a second. Okay, Amita Didi, can you just tell me if you're able to see my screen?
Yes, Didi, it's coming up.
Okay.
Yes, it's visible now.
Thank you so much. Okay, yeah. So thankfully we didn't miss much. Okay, we had just started the session when the network issue occurred. So we can just restart. So we were talking about the alphabet and how to understand the grammar of any language, we have to know the alphabet. You cannot go further without understanding the alphabet. So in Sanskrit, this alphabet or the letters, we call them Varnamala. Okay, the entire alphabet falls under the Varnamala of Sanskrit. And the Varnamala is divided into two groups of letters, vowels and consonants, or what we say, Swara, vowels, or Vyanjana, which are consonants. Okay, so vowels, these are the vowels. You all can read along with me. A, I, U, R, A, I, O, and O. Okay, so these are how many vowels are there? 12 vowels. Okay, we have 12 vowels totally. Amongst these 12 vowels, we've again split it we've subdivided them into two groups called short vowels or hrisva vowels, or long vowels, which are known as dirgha vowels. Okay, dirgha sounds. So as the name suggests, the short vowels and long vowels are separated based on the time it takes to recite these sounds. Okay, so short vowels, they are short in sound. Right? It's almost like self-explanatory. A, I, U, Ru. Okay, they're short. So if you have to give an exact value to it, exact time unit to it, we say it takes ek kshana or ek kal. Or if we roughly translate it to English, we can say 1 second. Okay, it might not be exactly a second, but approximately roughly around a second it takes to recite the short vowels. A, I, U, Ru. Okay, the term which we actually use in Sanskrit is kal, ek kal ka samay, or even kshana if we use like a moment. That is how we describe short vowels. Long vowels, on the other hand, are dirgha, as the name suggests, they're dirgha, they're long, and it takes 2 kshana or 2 kal, 2 seconds roughly. Okay, 2 moments to recite. So, a, I, U, Ru, E, I, O, Au. Okay, so as you can see, these vowels take a little longer to recite. That's why they're called the long vowels. And one thing I would like to bring your attention to over here is, so we have a as a short vowel. The long version of it is a. I is short, E is long. U is short, U is long. Ru is short and Ru is long. Okay. Some people might get confused and they consider A to be a short vowel and I to be the long version of that vowel. O to be a short vowel and Au is the long version of that. But that's not the case. Over here, A, I, O, Au, all these 4 are long vowels. They don't have a short vowel associated with it. Okay, so remember. So the easiest way you can remember is to just remember the short vowels because there are only 4. A, I, U, Ru. These are the short vowels. All the other vowels are long. Okay, so if you remember the 4 short vowels, then anything which is not part of these 4, they automatically become the long vowels. Okay. Next, we'll move on to the consonants. So first we need to understand what the difference between a vowel and a consonant is. So now we all recited these vowels together, right? A, I, U, A. Okay, all of these vowels we said together and we said it without any effort. We were able to say the vowel as it is. We didn't have to join it to any other sound. So a vowel or a swar is always independent. Okay, you can recite the vowel as it is. You don't need any other letter to be joined to it in order to recite a vowel. Okay. Consonant, on the other hand, is something which is to be able to pronounce a consonant, we always have to add it or we always have to combine it with a vowel. Okay, so we'll come to these groups of consonants quickly. Before that, I'll just like to move to this slide, which is what I was talking about just now. To be able to pronounce a consonant, you have to join a vowel to it. Okay, so here ka is a consonant, it's a vyanjan. But the reason why we're able to say ka so clearly is because it's joined to the swar a. Okay, so this ka over here is actually made up of half ka, the pure form of the vyanjan, which is called halant ka or half ka. And we're able to say that only because we are joining it to a. Similarly, here also ta is ta plus a. Halant ta plus a, which is what makes it ta. So now here, okay, I'll give you a quick exercise. So say ka. Okay, all of you please say ka once, just ka, ka. Okay, whoever's put their videos on, I think I can see you reciting them. So you have said ka. Now remove the a sound from ka. As you can know, as when you're saying ka, you can hear yourself saying a. Remove the a sound from ka and try to recite, say ka. You can't do that, right? You cannot say ka without the a sound. Okay, so that is what we mean when we say consonants are not independent. They are always dependent on a vowel if we have to pronounce them. Okay, so these are just, so it can be any vowel. We learned those 12 vowels in the previous slide. So you all, to be able to recite a consonant, it will always be joined to any vowel. Ki, ti, ti, tu, u, okay, kru, kai, to, tau, kau. Okay, all of these are, we're saying them, we're joining the consonant to a vowel, which is why we're able to say them. Okay, let's go back to the group of consonants now. So here the consonants are divided into 5 groups. Okay, ka varga, cha varga, ta varga, ta varga, and pa varga. Okay, by varga we just mean group. Now, some of you might have learned Sanskrit in school, so you might be aware of the Varnamala, or even if you haven't learned Sanskrit, if you have learned Hindi, Marathi, any language which uses the Devanagari script, you would have come across this Varnamala. And I remember in school, our teacher made us write in our notebooks. First line, you have to write ka, kha, ga, gha, nga. The second line you have to write ch, ch, j, jh, okay, just like how it is given here. So back then I didn't think about why she's making us write these letters in this order. You know, why k, 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 g, g on one line, why ch, 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 on the other line. Okay, why is it in this order? But then now after, I started learning the Bhagavad Gita, I started taking a little more interest in grammar. You realize how scientific Sanskrit is as a language. Okay, so if we take this first group, the ka varga, all the sounds which fall into this group, ka, okay, you can recite along with me, ka, kha, ga, gha, nga. Okay, all these sounds are in one group because they're being produced by the same part in your mouth, which is your kantha or your throat. Okay, so just put your hand on your throat, put your palm on your throat and recite these sounds. Ka, kha, ga, gha, nga. Okay, so you can feel this vibration in your throat, right? So all these sounds have come in one group because they're all being produced by the same part in your mouth, which is your throat or your kantha. Okay. Now the second group, the cha varga, the sounds over here. Okay. Now let's recite these sounds together. And as you recite them, observe where your tongue is touching your mouth. Okay. Which part of your mouth is your tongue touching? So let's say them. Cha, cha, ja, jha, nya. Okay. So if you observe, those who paid close attention to their tongue, observe where the rear tongue, the back of your tongue or your mid tongue, which part of your mouth is that touching? It's touching the palate of the mouth, the top part of your mouth. Okay, cha, cha, ja, jha. The rear tongue is touching the top of your mouth, the palate, which is called the talu. Okay, so that's why in Sanskrit, the cha varga, all the sounds part of the cha varga are called talavya sounds because they're being produced using your talu. We'll move on to the next word, next group, the ta varga. Okay, now these sounds ta, tha, da, dha, na. So where is your tongue touching your mouth over here? The tip of your tongue, where does it go? It's touching the top of your mouth, right? Ta, tha, da, dha, na. Okay, so the tip of your tongue is rolling back because sometimes these sounds are called retroflex sounds because the tip of your tongue, it's moving back. Okay, so it's going backwards and it's touching the top of your mouth. Okay, so this part which it's touching is called the murdha. That's why the ta group, all the sounds in the ta group are also called murdhanya sounds because we produce these sounds using our murdha, ta, the top part. Okay, so the murdha, if I have to give an approximate location, so we all know what the talu is now. So just behind your teeth, so between the talu and your teeth is where the murdha is there. Okay, that's where your murdha is. The next sound, ta varga. Okay, so I'll put this question. You all can answer this in the chat box. So when we say the ta varga, first recite these sounds: ta, tha, da, dha, na. Okay, so as you recited these sounds, which part of your mouth is your tongue touching? Okay, there is all these sounds. Your tongue is touching something when you recite them. What is it touching? Who knows the answer? The teeth. Okay. Excellent. Sunil ji, Samit ji, it's touching the teeth. That's why the ta varga is called they're called dental sounds or dantya sounds. Okay, dantya varga. Because all of these sounds are produced using your tongue. Your tongue is touching your teeth when you produce these sounds. And the final group, labial sounds, pa, kha, ba, dha, ma. Over here, how are we saying these sounds? Okay, what do we mean by labial? Who knows? Which part of your mouth are you using mainly to say these sounds? Pa, pa, ba, bha, ma. Your lips. Okay, your lips, all very good. Everyone who put the answer in the chat box, you all are right. These labial sounds or oshtha varna, they are produced when you join your lips together. Pa, kha, ba, bha, ma. Okay, so one thing we need to remember is, especially when in the labial group, the pa sound which comes here. Okay, so in our regional languages, we're very used to reading it as pa, like we say phala, sarva karma, phala tyagas. Okay, but we know it's a labial sound, and we're saying when we say phala, our lips are not touching each other, right? So that's why in Sanskrit, if we want like the shuddha pronunciation, we should not say phala, we should say phala, phala. Okay, join your lips together to say pha, phala. Okay, so these are the 5 groups of consonants. Again, it's very, very scientific and very natural. Okay, so now if we've been we've been reciting or pronouncing these letters for so long, but maybe today, we actually understood why they are being grouped together in such a way. Okay, but it's very scientific, very natural, and it's very easy to understand this part of the consonants. Now, one more thing we need to remember when it comes to consonants is that we need to remember the fifth sound or the last sound that comes in each group. Okay, so it's marked in purple over here. Ka, kha, ga, ghang, ga, cha, cha, ja, jha, nya, ta, tha, da, dha, na, ta, tha, da, dha, na, pa, pha, ba, bha, ma. Okay, so nga, nya, na, na, and ma. All of these are called nasal consonants or the anunasic sounds. Okay, so the speciality of anunasika or nasal consonants is that, so if we take the example of the first nasal consonant here, nga, ka, kha, ga, ghang, ga. So we know the ka varga, we produce these sounds using our kantha or our throat. But when it comes to the anunasic sound, the fifth consonant over here, we are using our throat, but along with the throat, we are also using our nasika or our nose to recite, to pronounce this sound. Okay, so there's a very, so that's why it's called anunasika. It's making use of the part of your mouth, which is from which it is being produced along with your nose. Okay, so maybe you don't feel a direct effect on your nostrils right now, but it is there. And for me personally, I understood these anunasic sounds, like they're being produced from my nasal voice as well, when my nose was blocked. Okay, so when my nose was blocked, I really struggled to recite some or to pronounce these anunasika sounds, because these anunasika sounds require your nose. Okay, they require your nasika. They use your nasika as you pronounce them. Okay, so remember these nasal sounds, the anunasic of each group, because when we learn anuswara, when we go to the concept of anuswara, the anunasic sounds are very important over there. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. So we did this slide. Okay, this slide is just shows us that we always need a vowel. If we have to pronounce a consonant, we always have to join it to a vowel. Okay, let's move on to anuswara. So first, let's understand what an anuswara is. Okay, anu means after, okay, or after something. So here an anuswara is something which comes after a swara or after a vowel. Okay, so in the Roman script, the anuswara is denoted by the letter M with a dot underneath it. Okay, so it's not ma. Okay, be careful here. Don't read the anuswara as a ma. This is just a symbol of an anuswara. And if you read your PDF, whenever you see this symbol of the anuswara, there's a sound always which appears in the bracket after it. Okay, so whenever an anuswara appears, you have to not read it as ma, but you have to instead read the sound which comes in the bracket after it. Okay, so anuswar will always come after a swara, and we learned that in just now. We learned that to able to produce any consonant or to be able to recite any consonant, we have to join it to a swara. So ka is the consonant, a is a swara, and if there's an anuswar on ka, it will come after a. Okay, so here in this case, so for the time being, I'm just going to pronounce this anuswara as ma. But when we move to the next slide, we'll understand the different ways in which we say the anuswara. Okay, so here the basic concept of anuswara is it will come after a swara. Kam, kam, kim, kim, kum. Okay, similarly here also krum, kem, kom, kaim. Okay, so it will always be after a swara. That is what we basically mean when we say anuswara. And now this is very important. Okay, this is a basic fundamental principle which we have to remember. Now that we've started learning the Bhagavad Gita, and you all might have already, if you have finished one chapter, so many anuswara, different anuswara sounds you would have come across. So the anuswara changes. So many of you have that question, right? Initially, when you start reading the shlokas, why are we saying nya in some places? Why are we saying nga in some places? Why is it ma? But many of us are used to reading that anuswara as a ma sound everywhere. But then when we join Gita Parivar, we realize that it's not ma everywhere. It changes. Okay, so it changes according to the last letter of each group. Okay, so this last letter of each group, what is it called? We just learned it. The last letter or the fifth sound of each consonant group. What is that specific term we use? The nasal consonant. Who remembers? Anunasika sound. Excellent. Okay. So it changes according to the last letter of each group. Basically means it changes according to the Anunasik of each group. So let's just quickly revise the Anunasik sounds. Ng, nya, r, n, and ma. Okay. So, okay, before we come to the special letters, we'll go through a few examples. Okay. So now whenever we see an Anuswara, how do we identify how to say that Anuswara? Okay, so there's a specific order. Okay, so maybe you can make note of how to identify an Anuswara, the order in which you have to go. First, identify the letter on which the Anuswara is coming. So if we take this example, Adhashchordhvam, on va, we have the Anuswara. You can see it's marked in red over here. Adhashchordhvam, ma, the Anuswar is here. After you identify where the Anuswar is, if you're reading in Roman script, it's this M letter with a dot underneath it. If you're reading in Devanagari, it's like a bindi on top of the sound. Okay, so identify where the Anuswar comes. After you identify where the Anuswar is, look at the letter which comes after it. Okay, so here after the Anuswar, we have pa. Okay, prasru half pa. Okay. Now, pa comes in. Now, after you identify which letter comes after the Anuswara, then think about which group does that letter come in. We learned those 5 groups of consonants, right? So, pa comes in the labial group. Pa, pha, ba, bha. And which is the Anunasik of the labial group? Can you quickly put it in the chat box? The Anunasik of the pa varga. Pa, pha, ba, bha, ma. Very good. Okay, so now we know the Anunasik of the pa group is ma. So the Anuswara which is coming there will be pronounced as a ma. Okay, so basically the Anuswara is always dependent on the nasal group, the nasal consonant of the group in which the next letter comes. Okay, the letter after the Anuswara comes. So let's take one more example. Sarva karma phalat gum. Okay, I'm saying gum for the time being, but it will change. So now first thing we need to do is identify the Anuswar. It is here on ga. Okay, the Anuswara is coming on ga. After that, we need to look at the letter coming after the Anuswara, which is ta. Okay, ta. Now we know there's a ta varga, which is the nasal sound of the ta varga. Ta, tha, da, dha. Quickly in the chat box, put the answer na. Okay, excellent all of you. Ta, tha, da, dha, na. So here the Anuswar will become Sarva Karma Phalatyagan. Okay, not Tyagam. The ta group Anunasik is na. Phalatyagan tatah kuruyatatmavan. Okay. Here, okay. Yada viniyatam chittam. Okay, we've identified that on ta the Anuswara is there. After the Anuswara, we have cha. Okay, chittam starts with cha. So here cha, cha, ja, jha, ya. The Anunasik sound is ya. So here it will change to yada viniyatain chittam. Viniyatain chittam. Okay, and one more example. Etan me samshayam Krishna. Here it's not samshayam. Okay, if you're used to reading as samshayam, remember, it will not be ma because the next letter after the Anuswar starts with ka. Ka group Anunasik, ka, kha, ga, gha, ga. So, etan me samshayam Krishna. Okay, so that is how we identify the Anuswara sounds. Okay. Now, these 5 groups of consonants so that is one part of the consonants. There are some other consonants which we call special consonants or the Vishishta Varga. Okay, so these sounds ya, la, va, sa, sha, sha, ha, and ra. Okay, there are 8 special consonants. They don't fall into any of these other Vargas. So that's why sometimes I call Avargiya Vyanjan because they don't have a specific group, or we just call them, they're part of the Vishishta Varga, special letters. So here, the Anuswar rules are slightly different, okay, because they don't come into any of those groups. They don't have a 5th nasal consonant. They don't have an Anunasik to them specifically, okay, because they don't come in any groups, but they do have an Anunasik. We need to remember them separately, okay. So, First we'll learn y, l and v. Okay, so these are 3 of the special consonants. So if a special letter comes after an anuswar, first we talk about when it comes after an anuswar within a word. Okay, so now in the Pushpika, which you all learned, okay, so I said we'll talk about year first. Let's actually talk about ver first. So in your Pushpika in the 12th chapter, we learn Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade. Samvade. So in Samvade, there's an anuswara on sa. Okay. So what I mean when I say an anuswara is coming within a word, this is an example. Samvade. Within the word Samvade, there's an anuswara on sa. After the anuswara, there's a ver sound. And now we know ver is a special consonant. Okay. So whenever there's an anuswara, whenever there's a ver sound after an anuswara within a word, for that anuswara, we have to pronounce it as a nasal ver itself. Okay. It will not be samvade or sanvade. It will be saumvade. Saumvade, nasal ver. Okay, another example we can take is Mrityu Sansara Sagara. Sansara, Mrityu Sansara. Okay, ver is coming after the anuswar on sir. We know ver is a special letter, and when we see ver, if there's an anuswar before ver, for that anuswar, we have to say the nasal version of ver, which is Sansara. Oh, sorry, Sansara is not a ver sound, it's a sir sound. I'm very, very sorry, I got a little confused. Okay, we'll come to that later. Saumvade can be one example. Saumvedana. Okay, that is another example. Okay, Saumvedana. Again, anuswar on sir. After that, we have a ver sound. We see the ver sound. We have to make the anuswara nasal ver itself. Saumvedana. Now, when we have ya, let's take the example of Sanyama. Okay, there's an anuswar on sir. The anuswar is followed by the ya sound. Okay, now we know ya is a special consonant. If there's an anuswar coming before a ya, we have to pronounce that anuswar as a nasal ya itself. Okay, so that's why we say Sanyama, Sanyoga. Okay, Sanyukta. We won't say Sanyama, Sanyoga. We say Sanyama. It's very natural. Okay, Sanyama, Sanyoga. It's a nasal ya. And when there's a la sound, there's an anuswar. There's a la sound after an anuswar. For that anuswar, we have to pronounce a nasal la itself. So, Sallapa. Okay, Salligna. Salla. Okay, whenever there's an la after an anuswar, for that anuswar, it will be a nasal la. So that's the rules for ya, la, and va. And the other remaining Vishishta Varna, sa, sha, ha, and ra. If these are appearing after an anuswara within a word, it will be an anunasik of va. Okay, so now we can take the Sansara example. Okay, Sansara, anuswar on sa. After that, we have a sa sound. Okay, sa is a special consonant. If there's a special consonant after an anuswara, it will be an anunasik of va. Sansara. Okay, if it's a sha sound, Sanshayaha. Sanshayaha. If we have a ha sound, we have simha. Simha. Okay, not simha. Simha. It will be a nasal va. Or if we have ra, if we have to take an example with ra, we can say Saurachana. Saurachana. Okay, so this is one rule of the anuswara when there are special letters. Okay, so this is the same rule. If within the word comes ya, la, va, change it to the same anunasik of that sound. If there's a ya sound, change it to a anunasik ya. If there's a la sound, make it a nasal la. If it's a va sound, make it a nasal va. Okay, so this is when it comes within a word. But what if the anunasik comes at the end? What if the anuswar comes at the end of the word? Okay, so all these examples we did till now, Sanyoga, Sanshayaha, Sansara, the anuswar is coming within a word. What if it comes at the end of a word, and after that anuswar, the next word starts with a special consonant? What will we do over there? Okay, so here again, there are slightly different rules. So when it comes to ya, la, and va, it's simple. Okay, so here, ye tu dharmyamrutamidai yathoktam mrutamidai. So here the anuswar, I think there's a slight error here. The dot should be below the ma. Okay, not on top of ma. It's an anuswara, so the dot should come here below the M letter, okay, to indicate it's an Anuswara. So here the Anuswara is coming at the end of the word. The next word starts with a Y. Y is a special consonant. So before a special consonant, if there's an Anuswara, the Anuswara will become a nasal Y itself. Dhrutamidai yathoktam. Okay. Similarly for L, it's the same case. Whether it's within a word or whether it's between two words, for Y, L and V, the rules are same. So here, tadottama vidalokan. We're saying vidalokan. Okay, we're giving a nasal L sound because the next letter starts with L. And when we see if there's a Anuswar before L, it will be we'll change it, the Anuswar, to a nasalized L. And the same for V, okay? Jnana dhyanau vishishyate. If V is coming after an Anuswar in the next word, the Anuswar will become a nasal V itself. Okay? Now the other sounds which we did, sa, sh, h, and r. Within a word, when it comes after an Anuswara, we know that it changes to the Anunasik V sound. But if it comes after, if it comes in a new word, okay, between two words, if there's an Anuswar coming at the end of the word and the next word starts with sa, sh, h, or r, the Anuswar will be a m sound there. Okay, it will be a m sound. So the 12th, I don't know if you're able to see this example or if it's getting cut out, but even if you can't, just open your 12th chapter, first charan, okay, first charan of the first shloka. Evam satata yuktaye. There's an Anuswara on V at the end of the word. Eva, on V, there's an Anuswara. The next word is starting with sa, which is a special consonant. Here the Anuswar will be m, okay, because that is the rule of the special consonant. Evam satata. So whether it starts with sa, the next word, if it starts with sa, sh, h, or r, the Anuswara which is coming before it will be a m. Okay, so if you're getting a little confused, don't worry. You have many shlokas which you have to learn. Okay, there are 700 shlokas in the Bhagavad Gita. So the more shlokas you do, the more these rules will become clear to you. Okay, but at least the basic way in which you have to identify the Anuswar, that is, I hope you understood that. Okay, so we did these examples. Let's move on to Visarga next. Okay, so Visarga in your Roman script is denoted by the letter H with a dot underneath it. If you're reading in Devanagari, it has 2 dots. Okay, those 2 dots after a letter in Devanagari. So here Visarga, so the actual definition of Visarga is basically to like prashvas chodna, to let out a breath, okay, to exhale. So Visarga, when we see a Visarga, it basically means we have to give a kind of exhale. But the way in which we say this Visarga is dependent on the sound of the vowel which is coming before it. So like in Anuswara, which is always followed after a vowel, even a Visarga will always be followed, a Visarga will always come after a vowel. Okay, a vowel will be followed by a Visarga. Okay, so here ka, we have the consonant ka, vowel a, after that we have a Visarga. Here the Visarga will be kah, kah. Okay, in some places, especially in areas like Maharashtra, it's said as ha. So if whether you say kah or kaha, it doesn't matter. Both are accepted over here. But the next sound, when there's a dirgha a sound, okay, after a dirgha a, if there's a Visarga, the Visarga will not be kah. It will be kaha. Kaha. Okay, like we learned teme yukta tama mataha in your 12th chapter. We don't say mataha, we say mataha. Before the Visarga ha, there's a ta sound, dirgha a. Okay, so the Visarga will be ha. Similarly, ki, hi. Okay, the sound before the Visarga is ki. The sound for the Visarga will be hi, ki, hi. If it's a dirgha e, then it will be ki, and the Visarga will be hi. He. Okay. Who sound before the Visarga will be who. Okay, it's very, in most cases, the Visarga will rhyme with the vowel which is coming before the Visarga. Who. After ku, there's a Visarga, so we have to say who. Ke, he. Okay. Kai, he. Over here, don't say kai, hai. Okay. So this is, although till now all the examples we did, the visarga is rhyming with the vowel coming before it. If the I vowel is coming before a visarga, the visarga will be he here. Okay, it won't be kai hai, it will be kai hi. Ko, ho, ko, ho, and cow, it won't be how, it will be cow. If there's a visarga after cow, it will be hu, cow, hu. Okay, so these are how we say the visarga sounds. So we just did these. So let's look at some actual words, okay, which are used in your Bhagavad Gita shlokas. Saunshayah, saunshaya. After here, there's a visarga. The visarga will be ha. Saunshayah or saunshayah. Even if you say ha, not a problem. Pandava, ha. Pandava. After va visarga, we have to say ha. Matihi, matihi, ti, hi. Lakshmi, hi, me, and then he. Kuru, hu, kuru, hu. Vadhu, hu. After dhu, if there's a visarga, it will be hu. Vadhu, hu. Hare, he. Hare, he. Here, dharmai, hi. After mai, there's a visarga, we have to say he over here. Dharmai, hi. Guru, ho. Okay, guru, ho. And gau, hu. Okay, gau, hu. So these are visarga. Very easy to remember the visarga rules. Okay, but there are some rules which are slightly different, which we'll learn now. Okay, so you might have learned this already in your class, so we'll just revise them. So whenever we have a ka, we have a visarga which is followed by the ka sound or the kha sound. Ka or kha. Over here, the visarga will become something like a kha sound. Okay, it won't be a ha sound. So here we see maitraha karuna evacha. It won't be maitraha because the next letter is ka, and this is one of the different rules of the visarga. If the visarga is followed by ka or kha, the visarga will be something like a kha sound. Okay, it's not exactly kha, it's a lighter version of kha. Maitrah karuna, maitrah, maitrah karuna. Okay, and the other rule is if a visarga is followed by a pa or tha sound, pa or tha sound, here tataha padan. Okay, it won't be tataha because the next letter after the visarga is pa. We have to change the visarga to something like a pa sound. Tatah padan, tatah padan. Okay, so observe. Okay, whenever after a visarga, if you see the ka or kha sound, the visarga should sound like a lighter version of kha, maitrah. After the visarga, if there's pa or kha, it will be a lighter version of fa, tatah padan. Okay, and one more thing we need to remember when it comes to visarga is after the visarga, if we have a sha, or sa sound. Okay, here santushtaha satatam. So after the visarga, here we have a sa sound. When there's a sa sound after the visarga, for the visarga, we have to change the visarga to a sa sound itself. Santushtas satatam. Okay, not santushtaha, santushtas satatam. Similarly, yomad bhaktas, bhaktas, not bhaktaha. After the visarga, there's a sa, bhaktas samet priyaha. Okay, similar rule for sha, urdhva moola madhashakham. After madha, there's a visarga. After the visarga, there's a sha sound, shakham. Okay, so for the visarga, we have to change it to sha, madhashakham. And the similar rule for sha, manashashtha nindriyani, manashashtha. Okay, there's one exception to the rule of the visarga. So we learned, right, before ka or kha, if there's a visarga, the visarga will be a kha-like sound, maitrah karuna. But the exception is when we have a visarga before ksha. Okay, so now let's look at this letter ksha. Okay, like we can see here in kshama. Ksha is made up of two sounds, half ka and full sha. Okay, so now it's made up of the first letter in ksha is ka. And we know the rule of visarga is before a ka sound, if there's a visarga, we have to say kha-like sound for the visarga, maitrah karuna. But if there's a visarga before kshama, okay, in all other words which start with ka, if there's a visarga there, it will be the kha-like sound. But if there's a visarga specifically before ksha, the ksha sound, okay, like in kshama, kshatriya, akshara. If there's a visarga before ksha, then it won't be a kha like sound, it will be a ha sound there. Ha, okay, not kha, ha. So here, tejaha kshama, tejaha kshama, ha sound. In some cases, you might hear people say tejah, tejah kshama. Even if you say tejah, ensure that you are saying a ha sound there, tejah, okay, not tejah, tejah, okay, it's a ha sound. So only when the letter ksha comes, if there's a visarga before that, there's an exception to the rule. Similarly here, we learned this in the 12th chapter. Sama dukkha sukha kshami. Before kshami, before ksha, there's a visarga. Dukkha sukha ha kshami. Okay, we have to make the visarga sound ha over here. Okay. The next, let's move on to aghata. Okay, the final concept of this session. Aghata, so as the name suggests, it means putting a little force, okay, giving a little extra stress to your sounds. So now, one thing you need to remember is an aghat always comes on a letter which is followed by a joint consonant, okay, which is followed by two vyanjanas or two consonants that have been joined together. So here, let's take this example, yadyada charati. Okay, let's look at this first word, yadyada. Here, a aghat will be there on ya because it is followed by two consonants that have been joined together, half the and full ya. Okay, two consonants, the and ya. So the ya sound coming before this joint consonant has an aghat. So we have to put a little extra force on ya. Okay, that is the first thing you need to remember. Identify which letter you have to give an aghat on. So you have to give an aghat on ya. Okay, now we know it's followed by the joint consonant. To be able to give that extra stress on ya, what you have to do is you have to give a double sound effect of the half sound which is there in your joint consonant. Okay, let's look at it a little more in detail. So yadya, okay, this part we know, yadya. After ya, we have half the and full ya. So this is without giving the aghat. We are just saying yadya. But when we give the aghat, we will say yadya. Yadya. So the half sound here is the. We give one more the. Okay, we've added one more the just for explanation purposes so that you understand what we mean when we say dvitva or double. We are giving a double the sound. Yadya. This is yadya without an aghat. This is yadya with the aghat. And we are able to say yadya because we are giving a dvitva of the half the sound. Okay, the double the sound is coming here. That's right. Let's take one more example. Charati Shrestha. So first identify where the aghat is coming. It's coming on T. Okay, T. T is because it's followed, T is followed by the joint consonant Shre, half Sh and Re. Okay, Shre. Now if here, okay, Tishre. Okay, after T we have half Sh and Re. So without the aghat, if I say it, it will be Tishre, Charatishre. Okay, but there's an aghat, so we have to give a little extra emphasis on T. To be able to give that extra emphasis, we will give a double sh sound. Sh is the half sound here. So it will be Tishre. Okay, you can see there's a double sh written here. Tishreshthas. Yadyada chara Tishreshthas. Okay, without the aghat, it will be Tishre. With the aghat, it will be Tishre. Okay. A few more examples. Guna pravruddha. So now na has an aghat, it's followed by pra. Guna. After na, there's half pa and ra, a joint consonant. So without the aghat, it will be guna pra. With the aghat, we have to make a double, we'll have to give a dvitva or double pa sound. So it will become guna pravruddha. Okay, not guna pravruddha, guna pravruddha. And similarly, one more example. Ashwatham prahuravyayam. So here the aghat will be on ra. Ra is followed by, okay, there are many aghats here in this, there's one more aghat which I can see in this charan, but let's take the aghat on ra specifically. There's an aghat on ra, it's followed by vya, joint letter vya, joint consonant vya. So let's split it, okay, prahura, half va, and then comes ya. Now to give the aghat, we have to give a double va sound. Prahu ravyayam, ravyayam. Okay. So that's how we give an aghat. When we say give an aghat, it basically means to make a dvitva, to give a double sound effect of the half sound which is there in your joint consonant. Okay, okay, we did these rules. Now, even in aghata, there are certain exceptions we need to remember. So the basic rule is an aghat is given on a letter which is followed by two consonants which have been joined together. What if there are three consonants? Okay, that time we will not be giving an aghat because it's an exception. So let's take this example. Kurvan siddhi ma vapsyasi. So here va, after va we have three sounds, three consonants joined together. Half pa, half sa, full ya. Okay. Now on va there will be no aghat because there are three consonants, not two. Pa, sa and ya. Okay. Vapsyasi. So there won't be an aghat here on va. Okay. In some cases you cannot give an aghat when there are three consonants joined together, or in many cases it actually happens naturally. When there are three consonants, it happens naturally most of the times. That's why to specifically indicate an aghat, it's not required with those red lines which are there, right, in your PDF. Whenever there's an aghat, you see two red lines on top of those letters. Okay, so when there are three consonants, we don't need to give that aghat there. The second rule, the second exception rule for aghat is when you have two consonants that have been joined together, but they are the same consonants that have been joined together. Okay, so in this case, yasmano dvijate loko. Ma is followed by two nas. Okay, half na, full no. But we will not be giving an aghat on ma because na and na, they are the same consonants that have been joined together. Okay, so here we don't give an aghat because these aghats will come. This aghat will come naturally. Okay, if you think about, take the word tattva. After ta, you have half ta, one more half ta, and va. Tattva. There are two tas joined together. So automatically, mattas. Okay, not matas. When there are two tas, it will become mattas automatically. So there is this natural force which we are giving on a sound, which is followed by two same consonants that have been joined together. Okay, now quickly tell me, over here, ma will not have an aghat, okay, because of this aghat exception rule. But anywhere in this charan, will we be giving an aghat on any other letter? Can you identify? Will an aghat be coming on another letter in yasmanu dvijate loko? We learned this shloka in the 12th chapter. So on which letter will there be an aghat over here? Okay, where there is no exception rule. Okay, yes, on O there will be an aghat. Yasman, no, because it's followed by a joint consonant dvi, half the and the. Excellent. On O there will be an aghat. Is there any other aghat in this charan or in this word? So one is coming on O. Whoever said O, excellent. Anywhere else? What about on ya? Will there be an aghat on ya? What is for ya is followed by sma, half sa and ma. Okay, so even ya will be having an aghat over here, right? So there's no exception rule here. Ya is followed by two consonants, sa and ma. So even ya we will be giving an aghat on ya. Yes, ma, no. Okay, but on ma we will not be giving an aghat. The third rule of exception, rule of exception for aghat is harsha. So let's take the example of harsha marsha. So we know that an aghat is followed by two joint consonants that have been joined together. Here in harsha, after her we have two consonants, half ra and sha. But we will not be giving an aghat on her because the exception rule states that in the joint consonant, if the first letter, the half sound is ra, then the letter coming before it will not have an aghat. Okay, so specifically if it starts with ra, okay, if there's a joint consonant which starts with ra, the previous letter will not have an aghat on it. Okay, that's one rule of exception. And the similar rule is if a joint consonant starts with her. Okay, here after na, we have half her and ya, which is a joint consonant, yes. But we will not be giving an aghat on na because the joint consonant is starting with her. Okay, and this is an exception. So if there's a letter starting with her, then the previous letter will not have an aghat on it. So here we just generally will read it. Nahya sanyasta. Okay, we will not be putting any extra force on na. Just regularly read it. Na hya sanyasta sankalpo. Similar for her as well. No extra force on her. Harsha marsha. That's all. Harsha marsha bhayodvega. Okay, so remember these rules of Aadhaar. And yes, we have come to the end of this session. So these are some very basic fundamental rules of grammar, which are mainly, which you mainly see in the Bhagavad Gita, okay? Because actually Sanskrit grammar is a very, very vast field of study. So what we have spoken about here are some basic concepts which are you can understand while reading your Bhagavad Gita shlokas specifically. Okay, there are many other concepts. So if you have any question related to these specific concepts, you can raise your hands and ask. Okay, because again, Sanskrit grammar, as I mentioned, it's a vast field. So there are many things which we will not understand in just the first level. And even as you move on to your next level, second, third, fourth levels, we will have a grammar session there where we will be going a little more in detail when it comes to Visarga Sandhi and all of that. Okay, so only for these related to these concepts, if you have any doubts, you can raise your hands and ask. And those who would like to leave can leave if you don't have any question. And we also have some more sessions lined up at 11 o'clock, okay, in different languages. So this happened in English, but we have in almost every regional language, Tamil, Telugu, Hindi, Marathi, Odia, all of these languages, we have grammar sessions which are being conducted. So if you would like to attend those sessions as well, please go ahead. Okay, some are right now at 9 o'clock and some will be at 11 o'clock. So if you're interested, you can do that as well. Didi, we can start with the question answer session. And some of you are asking if you can have a recording of this session. Yes, so this has been recorded on YouTube. So if you go to Geeta Parivar's YouTube channel, you will find this video there. So you can watch it anytime. Okay.
Tarunji, could you please go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, and if you're asking a question, if it's possible, please put your videos on as well. Okay.
Tarunji?
Yes, I have one question
Yes.
regarding this aghata.
Yes.
So in some places we just double the letters which comes in the first place, like shamer priyaha, like that.
Yes.
Or we double it, but
Correct.
bhakti we cannot double it. Bhakti. So
yeah, in many, that's correct. So in many places, like you have given a very good example, Dev Sharma ji. In many places, we'll see an aghat, but we don't need to specifically worry about giving a double sound because that comes naturally. So when it comes to when we say words like bhakti, automatically we are giving an aghat. But since there's a rule that whenever there's a joint consonant, we give an aghat. So we have just indicated the aghat there. But in many cases, the aghat is coming naturally. Okay, bhakti. So
you mean that wherever there is possible to double it, then make it double. If there there is not possibility of doubling it, then you just
read
give
it
the
as it is.
you just give the stress only,
Exactly. Just give the stress. You're perfectly correct. Very good.
Thank you.
Next.
Yeah, Didi. So I have one question. So in sometimes for Anuswar, we write that dot below the letter, like and all, right? But sometimes we put that dot on the above that letter. So what does that mean?
Okay. So when you're talking about Anuswara specifically, it will be always be a M letter with a dot below. Okay, if the dot is coming above an Anuswara, above a letter, that is not an Anuswara. So if you want to identify an Anuswar, search for the M sound with a dot below it. Okay, that is an Anuswar. It will never come above. The letters which have a dot above it, let me just confirm that once. But the letters which have a dot above it, is it there in your PDFs, any letters which have dots above it? Because in most cases, the dots are coming below, as far as I remember.
Ma'am, I have PDF only in Hindi, so not in English. I'm not sure.
But so I don't think there's any letter which has a dot above it. Okay, so there are other letters which have a dot below it. So I'll just share my screen again.
So I have one more question regarding the Sanunasik.
1 minute. Dev Sharma ji, I just clarify Tarunji's question and then we'll
yeah, okay.
answer it. Okay.
So I was talking about the one more question regarding Sanunasik.
Yeah. 1 minute. Deva Sharma ji, just 1 minute. I will clarify Tarunji's question and then we'll come back to your question. Okay. So Tarunji, if you look at these consonants, all of these, the ta varga or the murdhanya sounds will have a dot below it. Okay. So in the Roman script, at least, I don't think there's any letter which has a dot on top of it. In Devanagari, if you see a dot on top of a letter, like you see in your Hindi script, right? In Devanagari, there, if there's a dot, that means there's an Anuswara on that letter. Okay, I think only here in Ga, there's a dot on top.
Yeah, in this, the dot is above, and whereas in
Yes, sorry, I didn't notice that. Yeah. Over here, in na, the dot will come below because it's a murdhanya sound. All murdhanya sounds will have a dot below. Just for the Anunasik of the ka group, ka, kha, ga, ghang, ga, there's a dot on top. Okay, but apart from these letters, I don't think there is any other letter in the Roman script which has a dot on top of it. If there is, please let me know and I can clarify. Okay, so just remember, if you see this dot, 1 minute.
Yeah.
If you see just this sound ends the dot.
In the last slide, ma'am, it was there. Can you move it?
Yeah. No, this is a mistake. Okay, this is a mistake.
Okay.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like this. Okay, the dot should be. This is an Anuswara, so the dot will always come below. Okay, so it's a printing mistake over here. But so right now the only letter I am aware of in Roman which has a dot on top of it is Ga. Okay, all the other letters I think will have a dot below it. Okay, if you come across any letters, you can just let me know later.
Okay, ma'am. There are so many rules. How to remember all these rules?
Yeah. You don't need to remember even after this session. If you forget some of these rules, not a problem. So one thing you can do is you have been sent a grammar PDF. Okay, L1 grammar PDF. Take a printout of it and once in a while go through these rules. And many of these rules automatically, when you learn more shlokas, you will start understanding these rules. Okay, so you understand rules when you actually apply them while learning. So now you've learned only 1 chapter or 1.5 chapters. So as you learn more chapters, as you recite more shlokas which have aghatas, anuswaras and all of that, these rules you'll automatically start understanding them.
And
okay,
can
so
we
don't
say
worry.
Yeah, can we say that these rules not only apply in chanting that Gita shloka, but for every slokas as well?
Yes.
So, and I have one more little different question. Say if you chant that Shanti mantra, there is a gong sound is there. Are you aware of that?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Let me.
Okay, so these are we over here at Geeta Parivar, the Vedic Paddhati we are trying to follow as much as possible. Okay, so depend in other schools or in other shakhas and all of that, there are slightly different rules when it comes to Sanskrit grammar. Like
there is a character say Gwang, like Om Deo Shanti Antariksh Gwang Shanti. So that Gwang, I am not sure what is that. Maybe that might be used in any sloka in Gita as well.
I haven't heard something like that in Gita at least. Maybe there will be different. So these are only some rules of grammar which we are learning. Okay, so the Sanskrit grammar is again very, very vast. So there'll be hundreds of other rules, and when you learn shlokas from other scriptures, you will learn more rules of Sanskrit as you read them. Okay?
But rules will be same for every Sanskrit sloka, whether it is Gita
more or less they will be the same, but again the way in which it is being taught might differ. Okay, so in some traditions, for example, they have the ma paddhati. So for the anuswar, they just say ma for all anuswara sounds, and we can't say that is wrong. Okay, if somebody is reciting in a slightly different way, we will not say it's wrong. We just believe that there are different levels of shuddhata in pronunciation. So here at Geeta Parivar, we are, from good, we are going to better, and then from better to best. So that's why whatever rules we're following here, it's just to improve our pronunciation. So if somebody is pronouncing who is not in Geeta Parivar, if you hear them pronouncing in a different way, they are also pronouncing correctly. They are just following a different way of pronunciation. That's it. Okay.
Thank you, Didi.
Next.
Jayashree ji, please ask your question.
Didi, you're still on mute, Jayashree Didi. You can unmute. Yes.
What these dots represent? Can you explain once more?
It did. Okay. So in the Roman script, actually, so one thing we need to remember is these have been transliterated from Sanskrit. Okay. So that's why the rules of transliteration, like there's a separate body where they try to transliterate each sound to, so that when we read that sound in the Roman script, we are actually pronouncing the Sanskrit sound. Okay. We are not pronouncing English words. We're pronouncing Sanskrit words there, but we're reading it in the English script. So that's why there are certain rules which, you know, they're linked to linguistics and all of that, and we don't need to get too much in detail, but I'll just share my screen again. If you're asking certain...
there are some dots upwards.
Yeah, we just discussed that.
And
That is
that is,
only right now, at least what we need to focus on are the letters we see in Bhagavad Gita, the words we see in Bhagavad Gita. And as far as I am aware, in the Roman script, only this sound, na, has a dot on top of it. Okay, so this means if you see na, the letter N with a dot on top of it, that means it's an anunasic sound of the ka group. Ka, kha, ga, ghang, ga. Okay, I am not aware of any other letters which have a dot.
And this cha cha ja ja na, that what does this?
This is a different accent symbol. It's not a, again, these are all like related to linguistics and all of that. When you try to transliterate sounds of a different language and you try to represent that with the English alphabet, there are certain accents and symbols which we have to use. So we can't, that again, I'm not a linguist, so I can't explain what exactly that symbol is. But for our understanding, we have to just be able to identify the sounds. Now you see this N with a symbol on top of it, you have to maybe, you know, learn it, mug it up or something, or the more times you read it, you'll automatically understand it. So you'll see a nya sound. Okay, if you see this letter, that means it's a nya sound. So just associate the sound with the letter. That's it. But what that specifically means, that is a fully different subject, which we don't need to worry about. Next.
Krishna ji.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri
My
Krishna.
question is related to the chapter 12, Slok Kramang 16.
Okay.
Anapeksha Suchirdaksha. The what is the correct pronunciation of the cha, Kshatriya? It is related to ka or sha, or is it related to ka or cha?
Sha, Didi. Not cha. There's no cha sound there. It's sha. Ka and sha. Kshatriya.
The anapekshash.
So here, this is a slightly tricky charan because we have anapeksha. So here we have ksha, like we discussed. After pe, we have ksha. Now after ksha, there's a visarga. And after the visarga, we have shuchirdaksha, which starts with sha. So the rule of visarga is after a visarga, if there's a sha sound, for the visarga, we have to say the sha sound. Anapekshash. Pekshash. Okay, so say it slowly. Anapekshash shuchirdaksha.
Daksha.
In daksha, again, we have ksha. You have recited correctly, Krishnaji. Daksha.
Daksha. Sha, sha or cha?
Sha, half ka and sha. Now there is no cha sound, not daksha. Daksha. Ka and sha. Ksha.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, they're very similar. Ka, sha, cha. But again,
Didi?
sha. Okay, we'll go to the next question.
Shraddhaya parayo petas. Teme, it must be petans. Te tata dada an it would be, but it is it came.
Yes. No, okay, first thing, petan. Why are you saying na, Nagaji? Why are you saying na?
Petas. It is Shraddhaya parayo petas is here. It is
correct. Why do you think it should be na?
It is sir. How? Why?
It is sir. Okay. Yeah. So one thing is it will. You had asked. Okay. After I got your question.
Thai is there.
Correct. Okay. So you had said, why is it not petan? Okay. Because we know ta varga anunasik is na, right? Ta, tha, da, dha, na. So why are we not saying petan? Because
Parayo peta te, right? Sorry, like that.
Yes. Why is it sir? Okay. One thing we need to remember is it's not an anuswara, it's a visarga. So that's why we won't give nasal na here. We won't say petan. So it's a visarga, and after the visarga bracket, you see a half sa sound. Okay. And after the visarga, parayopetas, te me starts with te. After the visarga, we have a ta sound. So why is half sa coming there? So this actually, there is a visarga sandhi which has happened here, and we will be learning visarga sandhi rules specifically in level 2. Okay, so I won't explain this visarga sandhi rule in detail, but just broadly, if I have to say, before ta is a kathor vyanjan, which again you will be learning in the second level. Before ta, if there's a visarga, the visarga will be sa. There will be a half sa after the visarga there. Why is it like this? You will learn in the next level. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Didi.
But very good observation. Okay.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna. Yes, Deva Sharma ji, you had another question.
So one thing that you mentioned that you forgot to mention liri. In Maheshwara Sutra, there is one more swara that is liri. So that is we have to include liri.
Okay, the swar, like yeah. Okay, we didn't. That is correct. So the r actually is not used in Bhagavad Gita anywhere. That's why we haven't mentioned it in our slides. But in the Sanskrit alphabet, it is there. You are right. Ri, it's there.
And also in pronouncing ri, you pronounce ru. We pronounce rishi, not
yes.
rushi. No?
That is also, no. So yes, again, that has regional variations. Okay, the ru sound. Some people pronounce rishi, some people pronounce rushi. But the actual exact pronunciation, if you want in Sanskrit, it is neither ru or ri. It comes in between. So one trick which we learn to remember the ru pronunciation is you try to say ru, but your lips should be round. Okay, your lips shouldn't become like oo. So try to say ru, but don't round your lips. It will sound like ru. Okay, so that is how you pronounce the ru sound in Sanskrit.
And similarly,
even if you're pronouncing re, that's fine. If you're pronouncing re, if you're used to that, you can continue saying that.
Yeah, one more question about this egna. Sometimes in South Indian people, they egna, they pronounce egna. So North Indian people, they say ejna. Yeah. Actually, gya is made of ja and ya. So which one is the correct one? Ejna or egna or egya? We say egya.
Yes, all are correct. Okay, we can't say one is wrong, one is correct. But in Sanskrit specifically, if you want the correct version, we will say jya, half ja and ya. Jyana. Okay, but as you mentioned, in North India, we say gya. So even if you say jnana, we accept it. Okay, or if you're saying gnana, jnana, any of these variations of that letter, which we have, regional variations based on our regional languages, you can say it that way. Okay, in Geeta Parivar, we accept that. But those who are taking, want to say the exact perfect Sanskrit pronunciation, then you have to say jya. But if you are more comfortable with the regional variation, then you can continue.
And also one more Sanunasika, which I initially told you. What is Sanunasika? Because Shonskara, like that,
Anunasik is basically a nasal sound. Okay. So here in Samsara, we are giving a nasal ver sound. There's an Anuswara on sa. Whenever there's an Anuswara, that means we have to give a Anunasik or a nasal sound. You see an Anuswara, you should know that there's a nasal sound which we have to give when we see the Anuswara. So here in Samsara, the ver which we're saying, Samsara, that ver sound is called the Anunasik. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
There are different Anunasik sounds. So ver is just one example.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, next.
PR Ayerji.
Unmute. Yes, can I talk?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, very good morning. I'm talking about the 12th chapter 8th sloka and second line. It says, Nivasishyasi mayeva adavurdhvanna samshayaha. Here, this is the only line where the first line, first part and second part are kept separate to make 8 letter on both cases. Whereas, are you clear? Whereas, when you mix it, Nivasishyasi mayye vadavordhvanna sanchayaha. We are losing one letter. That is, Anushtup Chantap is lost. Please give me whatever answer you can. Please don't tell me, then it will be discussed in another chapter, another class. I said, Nivasishyasi mayye vadavordhvanna sanchayaha. There are only 15 letters.
Yes.
To get 16 letters, we have to stop at Mayeva and Ada separately. Do you know why Vyasa has kept that? My question is very clear. Why Vyasa has kept it? What knowledge we should have to understand that separation?
Okay. So one thing we need to remember is that the rules came after the shlokas. Okay, so these Anushtup, Trishtup, the number of letters in each shlokas, Vyasa had already given the shlokas, and the scholars and Sanskrit acharyas after that formalized these rules based on the shlokas. So in some,
I think this answer is acceptable to me. There is a lot of sense in this answer, because all the time I was given, you go to somebody else, you go to that class, and it will be explained in. But your answer is acceptable to me. Yes, tell me.
Yeah. So in some, I think you answered your own question. So over here we have said Mayeva Ata Udvan, so that the Anushtup Chanda we are able to fit those 16 sounds totally. Again, but like we know, these rules came after the shloka. So there will be certain places where the rule does not exactly apply in some cases. Okay, there are exceptions to every rule. So in this case also, Mayeva Ta Udvan, if we do it like, if we say it like that, the rule slightly breaks.
I will tell you one sentence. Arsha Prayogat Sadhu. Right? Arsha Prayogat Sadhu. Because Vyasa has used it, we accept it with a lot of respect to that.
Yes.
I agree with you. Thank you very much, because this is the first time out of 4 or 5 cases somebody has answered this. Always they were telling it, ask me, no, it will be explained in another class. That is not necessary for such a important group like, you are teaching this Anuswara, Visarga, and that Kutaksharam sound, that is this Jodaksharam sound, consonants. I mean, this is the heart of the thing, that is the one which is very difficult for normal chanting groups to talk that. But you are doing that. Why I was being avoided in this matter, I don't know. But anyway, I am grateful to you. I will not raise this issue now later. So the question is, Arsha Prayogat Sadhu. Because of that is, there are cases. Yes. I know that. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And the most important thing, you understood what I asked. Thank you very much. Yes. Happy.
So one thing we need to, like, not related to your question, IRG, but in general is, we should respect these letters as like a representation of, like, Shabda Brahma, the representation of Sri Krishna himself. Okay, Sri Krishna ki Vangmay Murti we say. So that's why the way it is given, let's read it like that itself. Okay, so sometimes like in this, no, this is nothing related to you, but like you mentioned, the rules, if they don't apply in certain cases, that's fine, because we know all we have to do is respect the way it is written and read how it is written. That's it. And in some cases,
that is accepted. But if you know certain things, this is not the way to chant. If you know, the current rule is that you have to join it, but it is going out of the chantas. So anyway, I'm happy with your answer. I will not raise this. And for your information, I was pushed from door to door 4 or 5 times for this question. That is not correct. You can tell the people who have done this. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Tarun ji?
दीदी एक क्वेश्चन हो रहा है, जो 19th श्लोक है ना इसका 12th चैप्टर का, इसमें जो सेकंड लाइन है, अनिकेत स्थिर मतिर भक्तिमान में प्रियो नर है, इसमें स्थिर मतिर जो है, व्हाट इज मींस व्हाई इट इज र, व्हाई इट इज नॉट हा?
आपको सेकंड लेवल में आपको ये सारे उत्तर आएंगे भैया, क्योंकि विसर्ग संधि हुई है वहां. So after विसर्ग, so now what we have learned now in L1 is, after the visarga, if there's a k or kh or p or th, we have learned those rules. Okay, अभी विसर्ग संधि के और भी अनेक नियम हैं, and once we start learning them, it will take at least years to understand विसर्ग संधि rules. तो यहाँ भी र आया है. There's a specific विसर्ग संधि called रत्व. Rutva. Okay, when does the visarga become a ra sound? Okay, तो वो आपको second level या third level में सिखाया जाएगा. Okay, तो अभी के लिए बस जो भी ब्रैकेट में दिया गया है आपको वैसे ही पढ़ना है.
Sunil ji, please go ahead.
Okay.
Sunil ji, you are muted.
I'm using.
Now you can. I can hear you.
I am using my husband's phone, so I am actually Jolly. I just want to ask. I just want to ask you one question. In 15 sloka, the second line. Harsham Harsham Vayodve Gair Muktoya. Why after the visarga we using R where the next consonant is ma?
Okay, so again, it's very similar to the question which Tarunji asked just now. And I know I'm very glad that you all are so curious and observant about when it comes to reading your shlokas. But this specific rule, so now for Visarga, there are many rules when it comes to Visarga Sandhi. So now after a Visarga is followed by a Kathor Vyanjan, if it's followed by Ka or Kha, okay, or after a Visarga is followed by Pa, Pha, Bha, what will the Visarga change to? There are so many rules like that, Jolly Didi, that we can't, in L1 itself, at least we will not go into detail. It might confuse many people. So in L2, please keep this question in mind. It's a very good question. And I'm sure most likely 90% when you attend your L2 grammar session, it will be clarified. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jyoti ji.
Yes, ma'am. Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Ma'am, in second slokas, Maya Vaishnav Nyuye Ma. Ma'am, what is the meaning of Maya Vaishnav Nyuye Ma?
Didi, this is a grammar session, not interpretation session. So you will get the meaning in the interpretation session specifically. Okay, there are so many actually. We had, I think, 12th chapter interpretation session is already over. But you can go on YouTube and there we explain the meaning of each shloka there. But those who are specifically interested, like in, the meanings of the shlokas and who can't wait for an interpretation session, or if you want a book, please definitely refer to the Anvay Geeta of Geeta Press Gorakhpur. Okay. So the Anvay Geeta, they have they've done a padachhed. So each word, they have explained the meaning of each word there and then given a meaning of the shloka. Okay. So when it comes to meaning, at least I am not qualified enough to give the exact meaning. So either you ask it in the interpretation session or you can refer to some of the Geeta Press books. Okay.
Okay. Ma'am, in Maya Vaishnav Nyuye Ma, bracket में न और रफ का
दीदी आपकी आवाज कट हो रही है. Can you I'm not able to hear.
Ma'am, your voice is not coming here.
I think there's some net. Maybe you can put your camera or video off. Maybe that's why there's a network issue. If you put your video off, you'll be able to hear clearly.
Hello?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, Maya Vaishnav Nyuye Ma in bracket will be in now we have to learn that.
Learn what, Didi?
Ma'am, in now, ma'am उसको भी पढ़ेंगे.
उसको भी पढ़ेंगे. हाँ, जो ब्रैकेट में आता है उसको पढ़ना ही है दीदी. मान. तो जब भी ब्रैकेट आता है तो जो भी ब्रैकेट में है उसको ही पढ़ना है. उसके पहले अगर आप रोमन स्क्रिप्ट पढ़ रही है तो उसके पहले वाले अक्षर को आप मत पढ़िए. ब्रैकेट में जो आया है उसको पढ़िए. तो यहाँ मान है, ब्रैकेट में न आया है तो आपको न का ही उच्चारण करना है. I'm not able to clearly understand your question, Jyoti Didi. Maybe you can check with your trainer once in class, or if they can put the group on the faculty question on the faculty group, you get an answer.
Okay. Sister, good morning.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna. I have one question. Like in Sanskrit, no, like we can't understand where we have to pause. Like Arsha Marsha Bhayodvegai. So there is word at Marsha, Arsha Marsha. So it is difficult to read without anyone, teaching it.
Mhm.
How to get this kind of where to pause and where to
Yeah.
cut the
So
product.
yeah. That I understand, Didi. Especially initially, if we have not learned any other shlokas and we suddenly start learning shlokas, it's very difficult for us to read them. We have all faced that. Even I initially found it very difficult. So one thing you can do is it's always good to have a hard copy. So printed book or a printed worksheet, keep that in hand. And now if you see a long charan, split it into smaller parts. So if you have your Geeta Parivar PDF specifically, over there, they have in the red letters down, if you read, they have the big charans, they have always in each shloka, they have always in the red letters told us, they've split the charan for us into smaller parts. Do you have the PDF with you, Didi? The 12th
Yeah,
chapter?
I have PDF and I have also taken that Geeta Parivar book. But
Geeta
still,
Parivar.
I'm
Yeah,
reading
still?
from the PDF only.
Okay, so one thing you can try doing is if you want to split a big charan by yourself, what you can do is with your pencil, you make mark, okay, where do you have to take a pause. So,
Okay.
and whenever you're breaking a charan into smaller parts, it's always recommended to pause, in most cases at least, pause only after a dirgha sound, okay, not after a rasva sound. Whenever you see a dirgha sound, pause over there. So if I have to take, let me see if I can find an example.
Ma'am, one second, sorry to interrupt. In that Arsha Matsya Bhayodveg, right?
Okay, yes.
Arsha, okay, there is a Dirghaswar. And Marsha, there is a Rasaswar. So
Yeah,
how we can stop there?
So even if you stop at a rasva swar, it's okay, but just ensure that you are not so. The problem sometimes is when we stop at a rasva swar, we drag that harsha, marsha, bhayodveg, because we see a pause over there, we tend to drag that rasva swar. That's why it's recommended to stop at a dirgha swar. But even if you're stopping at a rasva swar, if you're immediately saying the next part, then it's okay. Okay. So
and one more thing, even in when there is a dirgha swar like lokano dvijate, there also there are so many dirgha swars which will be coming. So where to stop? We can't understand.
Yeah,
only.
so wherever so lokano. So one part you can do lokano. This is simple, right? Just lokano. You can make as one part. Lokano. The second part dvijate. Lokano dvijate chayaha. Okay. So what you can do, Didi, is listen to the audios and then take your PDF. While you're listening, make note, okay, of where the dirgha sounds are and where you think you can pause.
Okay.
So the goal, so while learning, you can practice like this, break it into smaller parts, but eventually after you keep practicing, after 1 month or 2 months, the goal should be to say the full thing together, the full charan or the full line together without pausing. That should be the aim. Okay.
Okay. And one more thing, like that raga of this Bhagavad Gita shlokas, they're different. Like when we say it in raga, like in yesterday's class, Sudarshanji, it was different. And when they are teaching, like they give stress on we spell it correctly. But if we really say, sing like how Sudarshanji sang, it will be nice. So when we can reach to that, Sarah.
Yeah.
So
right now, raga and tune and all of that should not be the focus. Okay. When you're initially starting off, the focus should be pronunciation. So even if you're reciting without giving any tune, it's okay as long as you're reciting correctly. Once you are fully comfortable, so now when you take a shloka and you're able to recite the full thing without making a single mistake, without pausing anywhere, then you can think about adding the tune and raga. So Sudarshanji or all the other trainers at Geeta Parivar, they have been practicing for months or even years, which is why it sounds nice when they say it. But initially, when they also started, they didn't focus on the tune. Okay, first focus is on pronunciation. Don't worry about tune and all of that. Once you are 100% comfortable with pronunciation, then think about the tune. Okay, and definitely as you go on practicing, I'm sure you will, reach that level where you are able to say it without any mistakes, without any pauses.
And I have one more question, sister. Like Santushtas Satatai Yogi. In that should be in that Anunasikas, that Satatai Yogi should be add that Anunasika sound and then end with ya, or we should leave it and just say Satatai. There is a difference between Satatai and Satatai. So how we should pronounce it?
Satatai yogi. So it will always be better if you join the next word immediately. Then you'll be able to hear it clearly. Satat. If you just pause at satatai, then like you said, it doesn't come properly. But satatai yogi. So whenever you, if there's a word, so pause only at the end of a charan. Okay. Don't pause in between a charan. So yeah.
So that applies to everything, no? Like Bhutanam, there is a Anunasik, so it ends with ma only. So in other places,
so even if the charan is ending with an Anunasik sound, you can pause there. Like for example, Ye tu dharmya mritamidai. Okay, the 19th shloka. Sorry, 20th shloka. Ye tu dharmya mritamidai. So we are pausing at ya. Okay, so there also we are able to hear the nasal sound. There's no at mritamidai. Can you say it once?
Etu dharmyamritam midai.
Yeah, that's it. You got it. It's correct. Okay, so it doesn't actually, Anunasik doesn't matter whether you join it to the next word or you pause or don't pause. The sound is by itself, you can say it. Okay.
And one more thing, in samsara, no? Is it sausara or samsara? You need to add that Anunasik here also, no? Samsara.
Samsara. Very nice.
Okay. And one more thing, Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita, so Upanishads. Actually, I don't know the meaning of it.
Again, meaning, Didi, this is a grammar session. This is the Pushpika, okay? So the Pushpika actually Vedavyasa ji has added separately to each chapter. So a basic understanding we can have is, it's like an offering to Krishna himself. We are saying Om Krishna Arpanamastu, like we're offering our entire recitation. And the Pushpika is just a way to conclude that offering. So that is a basic definition, but exact each and every word, Brahma Vidyayai, Upanishadsu, Brahma, there are so many deeper meanings associated with it. So right now there's no time to discuss that. If you're interested, you can check in the interpretation session. Okay. Any other questions?
So Didi, I think we're done with the Q&A session. So thank you, Tanvi ji, for walking us through the L1 grammar and pronunciation rules in detail. We would like to thank our backend team for their immense effort in organizing these sessions, and thanking all the participants for being a part of today's session. Let's conclude with the ending prayer before disconnecting. So Didi, should we say the ending prayer together?
Yeah, you can go ahead and say it, Didi. And just before we end with the prayer, I'd like to thank all of you for being so interactive and for always, putting the answers in the chat box on time. So I wish you all the very best, and I hope, so many questions you will be having after you finish L1 grammar session. I'm sure you would have had more questions after the session, okay, more than before the session. After the session, more questions would have popped up in your mind. So those questions, you'll find the answer of those questions in the L2 grammar session. After L2 grammar session, you'll have even more questions, which you will get the answer of those in L3, like that, okay? So that's why please don't end your journey anywhere. Don't end your journey until you finish all the 4 levels. Okay. So Jai Shri Krishna, and we can end. Amita Didi, you can take the prayer.
Yogesham Satchidanandam Vasudeva Vrajapriyam Dharma Samsthapakam Viran Krishna Vande Jagadgurun Shri Krishna Vande Jagadgurun. So thanking each one of you for being a part of today's session. We look forward to seeing you all in the forthcoming sessions. Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
श्री गुरु चरण सरोज रज निज मनु मुकुरु सुधारी बरनउ रघुबर विमल जसु जोदायक फलचारी बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरौ पवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरहु कलेस विकार। जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीसतिहु लोक उजागर रामदूत अतुलित बल धामा अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी कंचन बरन विराज सुबेसा कानन कुंडल बल कुंचित केसा हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा विराजे कांधे मूज जनेऊ साजे शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर राम काज करिबे को आतुर प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज संवारे लाय सजीवन लखन जियाए श्री रघुबीर हरषि उर लाए रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरतहि सम भाई सहस बदन तुम रोजस गावे अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा नारद सारद सहित अहिसा जम कुबेर दिक्पाल जहाते कवि कोविद कहि सकै कहाते तुम उपकार सुग्रीवहि कीन्हा राम मिलाय राजपद दीन्हा तुम्हरो मंत्र विभीषण माना लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना जुग सहस्र जो जन पर भानु लील्योताहि मधुर फल जानू प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माही जलधि लांघि गए अचरज नाही दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हरे तेते राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे सब सुख लहै तुम्हारी सरना तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना आपन तेज संहारो आपे तीनों लोक हांकते कांपे भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे महावीर जब नाम सुनावे नासै रोग हरै सब पीरा जपत निरंतर हनुमत वीरा संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे चारों जुग पर ताप तुम्हारा है पर सिद्ध जगत उजियारा साधु संत के तुम रखवारे असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे अष्ट सिद्धि नौ निधि के दाता असवर दीन जानकी माता राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे अंत काल रघुबर पुर जाई जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई और देवता चित्तन धरई हनुमत से सर्व सुख करई संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलबीरा जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई जो सत बार पाठ कर कोई छूट ही बंदी महासुख होई जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा होय सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा की जय नाथ हृदय महडेरा पवन तनय संकट हरन मंगल मूर्ति रूप राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय बसहु सुर भूप सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय उमापति महादेव की जय।